Hey Amanda, let's take a look at your week 1 assignment 3 drawings. Make sure you're labeling your attachments appropriately. I'm sure it's just because you were using the camera rather than the scanner, but it has the digital camera kind of labeling on it rather than your own. The photo looks fine to me. It is a pretty common occurrence to have the 20% grays not show up very well on a scanner, because the scanner usually they tend to over brighten things, and so they wash out those 20% grays. So I think you'll probably be fine anytime you're working with an assignment that's just all color. But this looks good to me, so you can keep turning in the photographs as long as they're of this quality. The drawings themselves look very good. The blind technique I thought you did a nice job of in keeping kind of a nice consistent stroke in place. The color one I think is, to me, the most impressive of them, where it's very clear the strokes that you're making, and you can see just how well I think you're maintaining that kind of horizontal movement, and it doesn't feel like it overlaps too much. I will say that I think I'm assuming you're going in this direction with your stroke. I think you might be resting the marker a little bit too long after you make the stroke. A lot of the times what you do is you make the stroke, and then if the pen sits, it just keeps putting ink into the page, and so we're seeing kind of a build up towards the end of the stroke. There's always going to be a certain amount of this, because you can't just like keep moving and then release and actually have that happen consistently. But I think if you're trying to be really careful about making sure you're within the cut that you've made, you might be taking a little bit too long to make sure, and so you're getting a little bit of too much ink in the page. So it's something to keep an eye on, but it'll definitely be something that goes away as you use the markers more, because you'll just get more fluid with your stroke. So it'll, my guess is it'll probably just end up kind of going away on its own, but it's something to, like I said with the last assignment, just something to keep an eye on. The side-to-side technique is good in that, especially with the grays, you've got a terrific coverage that's nice and even. It doesn't seem like it's following through quite as much on the colored ones, where we're seeing, a lighter value on the outside and a darker value on the inside, or we're seeing some mark making in some of the shapes, and the value stuff going on in the brown a lot too. But I think that they, for the most part, are on probably where they should be at this point. There's going to be a few kinks, here and there, but I think overall you're still following through with the technique, and you're still getting some pretty good results overall with them. I think you, like many of your peers, the biggest concern for me would be to keep an eye on your edge quality, and controlling your marker, especially in these kind of outer edged areas. You've got a lot of kind of breakage. It's a little bit rough. I think some of your shapes also are starting to feel a little loose and asymmetrical, and that might be an edge quality issue. It might be an underdrawing issue, but your underdrawing looks pretty good. So you want to try as best you can to maintain the drawing that you've made. So doing things like cutting your edges and being very careful with those initial cuts, to make sure that you're not going to overextend this stroke. But we're just seeing, especially in the side to side, which it is difficult to keep, we're seeing a lot of the shapes start to get a little bit kind of loose and starting to feel a little wobbly, where they don't quite go all the way up to a certain shape, or some of the edges are a little more rounded and that sort of stuff. This is by no means kind of just something that you're doing. Everybody, when they're starting out, is running into this issue, and you can really look at a lot of your peers' work and see similar stuff going on. So it's just something like the other issue. It'll probably end up going away on its own, but it's just something to keep an eye on.